Wife turned a vacation into a family nightmare with her sister and brother-in-law, leading me to consider moving out. Our son is college-aged, and when he backed out of this trip at the last second, I probably should have done the same. He went on vacation with my wife's family last year and had a rough time, but my wife insisted that, as she has so few vacation days, she wanted some quality time with just me. So, despite my misgivings, off we went. After a long drive, we arrived. The house was already bursting at the seams. My wife comes from a huge family, with lots of siblings and their partners. I've always genuinely liked her brothers. They're funny, smart, and easy to spend time with. Her sisters are sharp and pleasant enough individually, but when they're all together, something changes in the air that isn't exactly inviting. My wife, above all, is closest to her older sister, who lives just a block away from us, and now has a new baby with her husband, my wife's brother-in-law. Once upon a time, I genuinely enjoyed the sister's company, but over the years, she's meddled more and more, her influence on my wife tipping things in a negative direction. My wife doesn't see it, she never does, but even our son has commented on her growing tendency to meddle and subtly undermine me, especially when it comes to my career choices and salary. Still, I attribute some of this to the cues she gets from my wife. No sooner had we arrived, I asked if there was a quiet corner where I could work. I teach online and had classes to run. My wife's brother-in-law, the very corporate HR guy and new father, responded with a dramatic eye roll in his wife's direction. I wasn't sure if my wife noticed since, not a minute after arrival, she made a beeline for her sister and the baby. For the entire day, she was glued to their side, her sister, brother-in-law, and the undeniably adorable baby she absolutely adores, being an aunt too. I buried myself in work, grading and teaching from the basement, thanks to my wife's brother, who set up a quiet little space for me. Evenings, I found some joy downstairs with the brothers and their girlfriends, who were a great bunch, laid back, easy to laugh, and genuinely good company. My wife, meanwhile, wandered into our room at 3 a.m. and passed out. The house was beautiful, with views to die for, but it was remote. Neither the town nor the beach was within walking distance. On top of that, my wife's brother-in-law always parked his oversized SUV in the exact spot at the bottom of the driveway, so no one could get their car out unless he staged a little production every time he moved it, only to return it right back to the same spot. When I first met him, I thought he was approachable, polished, and someone I'd eventually call a friend. But this visit, he seemed self-absorbed, condescending, shallow. Any attempt at conversation resulted in one-word mumbling and then him sauntering off, back to showing off in the living room with the sisters. As days slipped by, I didn't spend a single meaningful moment with my wife, not even over dinner, as she firmly positioned herself next to the baby, her sister, and brother-in-law. Every gesture to include her, suggesting a kayak trip or even a walk, was ignored. When I actually managed to sit by her, she dismissed me with a cold shoulder, refusing to take off her headphones when I tried to talk. I tried to make peace with it. It's her vacation, after all. And yes, her bond with her sister, the baby, their little bubble, it matters. I kept busy with work, stifling the feeling I'd been tricked into coming. That night, while the sisters, my wife, and the bill clustered upstairs, I was in the basement with the brothers. I struck up a conversation with one of the girlfriends, her first time meeting this raucous family. She was sharp, immediately picking up on the tension. She noted, ever so deftly, that my wife, her sister, and the bill seemed purposefully cliquish and cold, which was making her anxious that they didn't like her. I reassured her that was just how they were, insular and so wrapped up in the baby that nothing else got in. The conversation drifted to a broader family dynamic, the running joke about how my wife calls all the shots. I poked fun at myself for my analysis paralysis and how, frankly, my wife's decisiveness makes things easier for me. The girlfriend laughed. She definitely has a tyrannical streak, which drew genuine laughter from the brothers. I was strangely struck by just how true that was. Later, my wife once more crept into bed well after I'd gone to sleep. On the last day, everything seemed to unravel further. The brothers packed up and left right after breakfast. My wife and I had agreed to leave that Friday, since I needed to get back. As I began packing, she absolutely lost it. She had decided, unilaterally, that we should stay another day. When I explained that I couldn't, but would adjust so she could see her parents for the bike ride, she fumed, calling me selfish, insisting that her few vacation days meant she should decide when we left. I told her to take the car and drop me at a train station later, or head home with her parents or sister. Everyone was headed in the same direction. She tried to keep the fight going, but I refused to engage. That infuriated her even more. She started trailing after me around the house, yelling, calling me selfish, bragging about making more money than me and even threatening that she'd never have sex with me again. I started to feel like I was having a panic attack, itching just to get out. Her sister and brother-in-law swept in, comforting her and offering to take her home Sunday. They lived just blocks from us. She instantly flipped the switch, ignoring me and joining their little clique as if nothing had happened. I, meanwhile, was utterly humiliated and on edge. The brother-in-law took my wife to the beach in his oversized SUV, and after some time, I collected myself and kept the promise I'd made to her parents by joining them for a bike ride, a needed respite that worked wonders for my nerves. On returning, I said my goodbyes. Her parents hugged me warmly, but my wife, her sister, and the brother-in-law didn't even look up from whatever they were doing. So, I just left, stewing on the drive home, trapped in bumper-to-bumper traffic with nothing for company but my thoughts and a gnawing sense of regret. I just had another argument, the kind that's really just me standing there getting yelled at in front of everyone. I couldn't stop thinking about how I don't want a life like this. I don't want to feel ashamed for being a teacher. Our son is off in college, it's just me and her now, and I don't need this constant turmoil or to feel so utterly defeated. The more I mulled it over, the more anxious I became, and the entire drive home felt absolutely miserable. This trip was a tipping point for me. Sure, no marriage is perfect, and we've had our share of issues before, including plenty instigated by her sister, sticking her nose where it doesn't belong, but something about this made it clear, we're starting to head down totally different paths. I refused to keep being treated like some kind of chauffeur, or worse, a doormat. I only came along because she practically begged me, insisting that it was important to spend time together and make memories. But now it's so obvious, I was just a convenient ride, nothing more. The second I tried to stick to my own plans, tried to look out for myself, I was smacked down. The thing is, I love my wife, and I'm still very much in love with her. I have zero interest in finding someone else or jumping into a divorce. But I can't stand how she acts around her sister and brother-in-law. I refuse to shape my entire existence to orbit around those people. I'd never ask her to stop seeing them or stop being the wonderful aunt she loves to be. I just can't let that become my whole life. Now, moving out is starting to seem like the only option, even though money's tight and I can't really afford a lot. I've started looking into shared apartments about an hour away, just to see if there's something in my budget. That way, I could afford it and still cover my half of our current place. I'm also weighing the idea of a legal separation, not a divorce, just some space so I can breathe again and figure out what's left of us. I honestly believe some time apart might be the healthiest thing right now. Update 1. A lot of people have told me I should lawyer up immediately, and some have pointed out that my marriage is already over. Maybe that's true, but I'm just not ready to accept that reality yet. I need to have an honest conversation with her and see if therapy is even an option before heading straight to divorce. I know for sure I need space, time to process all this, and therapy is absolutely on my list. But for now, I'm not prepared to go all in on a divorce. I have no interest in trying to ruin her financially, either. I don't care that she earns more than me. Honestly, good, let's make things easy and clean if they need to be. I've seen too many divorces become bitter battles, people just set on punishing each other, and I don't want that. Unless, of course, it turns out she's having an affair. If that's true, I will absolutely get a lawyer involved. When people say, just leave, I get it, I really do. But our son's about to start school, and I don't want his last week at home overshadowed by a huge fight. Besides, I don't really have anywhere else to go at the moment. Maybe I could stay with a friend for a night or two, but it'll take time for me to find a room to rent within my budget while still paying my half of the rent. And honestly, I love my cat too much to just disappear. I noticed neither she nor her sisters bothered to check if I got home safe after everything went down. Her brothers did, though, as did my brother-in-law. Points to them. But I imagine the echo chamber between her and her sister, and the brother-in-law, I guess, is so loud that I'm probably the villain in all their conversations right now, so I'm not holding my breath for a call or text from her. A lot of people have speculated about her and the brother-in-law, but I'm certain she isn't having an affair with him. She's incredibly close to her sister, almost uncomfortably so, but I can't see her crossing that line. If anything, I think she does want someone more like him, which is a painful thing to realize. Our values are so different. I'm a teacher, and she, and her whole family, puts an almost religious value on money and corporate jobs. I didn't quite realize how deep that ran until these last few years, and in their eyes, teaching just isn't a real career for a man. Apparently, in that regard, I've failed her as a husband. She brings up the money difference often, how she makes more than I do. I feel like an idiot for not realizing how deeply that bothered her. Honestly, her sister will probably set her up with someone just like the brother-in-law once we separate, if that isn't already happening. That thought stings, but if that's what she wants, there's nothing I can do but move forward and build a new life. She has had episodes with her mental health in the past, and I know some people wonder if that's a factor here. Years ago she worked through a lot with DBT, and since then, she's become really successful professionally, much more than I am, honestly. I know she loves me, or maybe just has love for me, but it's clearer than ever that she doesn't respect me. That's a bitter, suffocating pill to swallow. She straight up lied and manipulated me into driving 5 hours out of my way, only to ignore me when we got there. It's one thing to be rejected, but it's another thing entirely to be used by someone you love. And as much as I'd like to think otherwise, this isn't the first time she's manipulated me like that. But this time, the wound is raw. I talked with my son about it, without diving too far into the details. He saw it coming, knew this trip was a bad idea. I told him his intuition and common sense are sharper than mine, and that I hope he always trusts that voice inside him. He said something that stuck with me, that she always acts differently around her family, almost like she tries to come out on top by humiliating me. Maybe because she was always picked on by her siblings and parents, this is her way of finally being a winner in their eyes. Right now, I'm still anxious and upset. My mouth is dry, I can't sleep, my body seems to know something my mind isn't ready to admit. Here's where I am, I'm going to finish grading my students' work. I'm going to find a therapist, no question about it, I need help. I'll talk to her later this week, after our son is settled back in at school. Maybe we'll try counseling, maybe not. Maybe she's already done with this marriage. Frankly, I suspect she is. I also need to find a cheap place to live, a room I can afford just for the semester. My thoughts feel scrambled, everything is overwhelming right now. One thing is clear, I absolutely need distance from her family, especially her sister and brother-in-law. Whatever is going on, the three of them have created this toxic echo chamber insisting I'm a burden, or that I'm somehow holding her back. I need to put up some boundaries and protect myself. I still hope that even if the marriage isn't salvageable, maybe we can be friends in the end. We did raise an incredible son together, and we both have to be there for him as he goes through college. A friend of mine went through a hard divorce. Years later, after a lot of therapy, he found gratitude for what he'd had, even if it didn't end the way he wanted. I'm not there yet. Right now, I'm angry and hurt, at her, her family, and the whole mess. But I know I'll get through this. I'll get past it. For now, I'm crashing at a friend's place tonight and tomorrow while I try to pick up the pieces. Update 2. I finally got some sleep last night, a relief I desperately needed. Pouring my thoughts out and reflecting on everything that's been happening has helped me see things more clearly, in ways I hadn't before. I've been able to admit things to myself, uncomfortable truths that have been lurking beneath the surface. If I'm honest, a lot of the complaints my wife has about me are fair. I'm messy, disorganized, and, well, it's clear now that these aren't just minor quirks. I struggle with anxiety, the kind that grabs you and won't let go. Years ago, before I ever met my wife, I had a serious illness that nearly killed me, and I can see now how much that trauma shaped me, left me with some form of PTSD that never really faded. This anxiety worms its way into everything I do, even basic decisions. Sometimes, I get locked up in analysis paralysis, unable to move forward on the smallest things. I can't ignore the other baggage I carry, my student debt weighs me down, and, let's be honest, the salary I make as a teacher isn't going to turn any heads. I don't want to paint myself as blameless in all of this. Looking at my wife, it's not hard to see what's happening. She's been swept up in this baby fever, and I think it's hit her harder since our son moved out, leaving an emptier nest behind. She thrives on being an aunt, adores the children in her family. A few years back, we went through some devastating miscarriages. I see now that I wasn't there for her the way I should have been. I shut down emotionally when she needed me to step up. There was a time I thought we'd have another kid, that we'd try again, but after the last miscarriage, she didn't want to. She's told me during arguments that if I'd been more responsible with money, we might have had another baby. I can't get rid of the guilt that comes with that. There's a heaviness that I'll always carry. Sometimes, it's like I have this sense that her family resents or dislikes me. Maybe not hate is too strong a word, but certainly, there's some lingering resentment, especially with her sister, mother-in-law, and brother-in-law. Her brothers and younger sister still get along with me, and her dad, I think, likes me as a person. But to her dad, I'm unsuccessful, just not what he hoped his daughter would marry. They make these pointed comments, especially her sister and mother, about how the men she dated in high school are all crushing it financially. Once, her mother got tipsy at Christmas and said, right out loud, "Imagine if you had married X instead." In their world, there are only a few legitimate careers: corporate finance, HR, law. A while back, I took a job in administration. It had a flashy title, but it was soul-destroying. The pandemic made it even worse. Eventually, I crashed and quit, retreating back to teaching for a sense of sanity. I talked to my wife before I made the move. She told me not to. I tried to stick it out, but I just couldn't. When I left, she was furious. I guess in her mind, that job was supposed to be my path to real success. Walking away from it was the moment her respect for me collapsed. I hoped things would heal over time, but it's clear that was a line I stepped over, and the damage hasn't been undone. There are people who would swear up and down that my wife is having an affair with her brother-in-law. In my heart, I know she never would. She loves her sister, would never cross that line. It's more like she envies the life her sister has, a successful husband, the security, the baby. I think she craves that life, and maybe that's the life she'll have one day. Maybe, on some level, there's already an emotional connection brewing with someone else, but that's not something I chase. I don't snoop on her phone. That's not who I am. If she wants a divorce, I can live with it. I just want to make it as easy as possible for our son, for her, even for me. I don't care if I lose the divorce, there isn't much to split anyway. My salary, my pension, my student debt, that's about it. What matters is my relationship with our son and my connection to the life I've built, even if that ends up being in an apartment with a roommate. I would rather lose and stay on good terms with the only woman I've ever loved, the mother of my son, than fight tooth and nail for things that don't really matter. Maybe down the road there's another love for me, as people say, but right now that's nowhere on my radar. I'm not hoping to date, not searching for anyone else. Those apps and all that aren't for me. She's it, she always was. We've been together more than 23 years, married for over 20. She's beautiful, successful, and she was the one I chose. We had so much happiness over these decades, so many bright years. And despite how sad I am about what's happening now, I know I've been incredibly lucky. Update 3. It's been 2 weeks since I wrote my last update, and everything has taken a turn I never saw coming. I'm still crashing at my friend's place, but what happened this past weekend has left me questioning everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Last Friday, I finally worked up the courage to call my wife. We hadn't spoken since I left that house, and I figured it was time to have that honest conversation I'd been dreading. She answered on the first ring, which caught me off guard. Her voice was different. Softer than it had been in months, almost vulnerable. She asked if we could meet for coffee, just the two of us, away from her family. I agreed. We met at this little cafe we used to go to when we were dating. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, like she hadn't been sleeping. The first thing she said was that she missed me, that the house felt wrong without me there. Then she started crying, right there in the middle of the cafe. She told me she'd been doing a lot of thinking, that maybe her family had been too harsh on me, that she never should have let things escalate the way they did. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. But something felt off about the whole thing, like she was reading from a script she'd rehearsed. Still, when she asked if I'd come home, just for the weekend, to talk things through properly, I said yes. I missed her too, missed our life together, missed our bed and my cat. Saturday morning started well enough. We had breakfast together, actually talked like we used to. She seemed genuinely interested in my work again, asked about my students. For a moment, it felt like maybe we could find our way back to each other. Then her phone started buzzing. Text after text. She kept glancing at it, and I could see her getting more and more agitated with each message. Finally, I asked who was texting her so urgently on a Saturday morning. She got defensive immediately, said it was just her sister asking about dinner plans for Sunday. But the way she clutched that phone, the way she angled it away from me, I'd seen that behavior before, during those weeks after I quit the admin job. Sunday came, and of course, we were expected at her sister's for dinner. I really didn't want to go, but my wife insisted it would be good for everyone to clear the air. Against my better judgment, I went. The moment we walked into her sister's house, I knew it was a mistake. The brother-in-law was there, naturally, holding the baby like he was posing for a magazine cover. My wife immediately gravitated toward them, and within minutes, it was like I didn't exist again. But this time, I was watching more carefully. I noticed things I'd missed before, or maybe hadn't wanted to see. The way my wife's face lit up when the brother-in-law handed her the baby, the way she laughed at his jokes, even the ones that weren't funny. The way she kept touching his arm when she talked to him. And him, the way he looked at her when he thought no one was watching. Then I saw her phone light up on the counter. She was in the other room, cooing over the baby with her sister. The message preview showed a name I recognized, his name. At 8 p.m. on a Sunday. I didn't read it, I'm not that person, but seeing his name there, at that time, when his wife and my wife were in the same room. It confirmed what I think I've known deep down for a while now. I made an excuse about feeling sick and left early. My wife barely looked up when I said goodbye. She came home around midnight, slipping into bed like nothing had happened. I pretended to be asleep, but I could hear her texting someone for at least another hour. The soft glow of her phone, the careful way she typed to avoid making noise, it all felt so familiar now, like puzzle pieces clicking into place. I've been thinking about all those late nights she's been coming to bed, all those work emergencies that kept her out, all those times she's been unreachable when I called. I used to attribute it to her being social, to her job demands. Now I wonder if I've been incredibly naive. The strangest part is that I don't feel angry, not yet, anyway. I feel relieved, almost. Like finally having a name for this feeling that's been eating at me gives me permission to stop trying so hard to save something that might already be over. I'm still not ready to hire a lawyer or make any big moves. Our son comes home next weekend for a quick visit before classes start, and I want that to be normal for him. But I've started documenting things, taking screenshots of her staying out late, keeping track of when she's working but unreachable. Not because I want to destroy her, but because I'm starting to realize that maybe the people telling me to protect myself aren't wrong. I've also been sleeping in the guest room since Sunday night. When she asked why, I told her I was having trouble sleeping and didn't want to keep her awake. She seemed almost relieved. Tomorrow, I'm going to start looking at apartments again. This time, not just as a backup plan, but as a real possibility. I love her, I probably always will, but I can't keep pretending that love is enough when respect has left the building entirely. The hardest part is admitting that maybe this marriage has been over for longer than I wanted to believe. Maybe that vacation wasn't the beginning of the end, maybe it was just the moment I finally stopped making excuses and saw what was really there. Update 4. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and I honestly don't know where to begin. Everything I thought I knew has been turned completely upside down. I found an apartment, a small one-bedroom about 40 minutes from our house. Nothing fancy, but it's mine, and more importantly, it's affordable while still covering my half of our mortgage. I was planning to tell my wife this weekend, after our son headed back to school. I had this whole speech prepared about needing space, about how maybe some time apart could help us figure things out. Then Wednesday happened. I was grading papers in the living room when my wife's phone started ringing on the kitchen counter. She was upstairs in the shower. The caller ID showed her sister's name, but when I glanced over, I could see it wasn't her sister calling. It was him. The brother-in-law. Using her sister's phone to call my wife while she was in the shower. At 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. Something about that felt so calculated, so sneaky, that I couldn't ignore it anymore. When the shower turned off, I casually mentioned that her sister had called. My wife came downstairs, hair still wet, and immediately grabbed her phone. The look on her face when she saw the missed call, it wasn't the look of someone who'd missed a casual family check-in. It was panic. She called back right away, putting it on speaker like she was trying to prove something. Her sister answered, sounding confused. "I didn't call you," she said. "My phone's been in the other room all afternoon. Maybe it was an accident?" But I could hear a baby crying in the background, and something else, a man's voice, muffled, saying something about hanging up. My wife ended the call quickly, laughing it off as a pocket dial. But I'd seen her face. I knew. Thursday night, she said she was going to help her sister with the baby since the brother-in-law was working late. She didn't come home until almost 1 a.m. Friday, it was a work emergency that kept her out until midnight. Saturday, another evening at her sister's because the baby was fussy. Sunday morning, while she was still sleeping, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked the phone bill online. The number of texts between them over the past month was staggering. Hundreds. At all hours, early morning, late night, during times when she was supposedly at work or with her sister. I didn't read them, but the sheer volume told me everything I needed to know. I sat at our kitchen table, staring at those numbers, and felt something break inside me. Not my heart, that had been cracking for months. Something deeper, the part of me that had been holding on to hope, making excuses, believing that love could fix this. When she came downstairs, I was still sitting there with the phone bill printed out in front of me. She saw it immediately. Her face went white. "We need to talk," I said. She sat across from me, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she started crying, real tears this time, not the controlled kind from the cafe. "It's not what you think," she said, which is exactly what people say when it's exactly what you think. I asked her directly, "Are you having an affair with him?" She couldn't look at me. She kept saying it was complicated, that it wasn't supposed to happen, that she never meant for it to go this far. She said they were just talking at first, that he understood her in ways that I didn't, that he made her feel valued and successful instead of like she was settling. Settling, that word hit me like a physical blow. She told me it started about 6 months ago, right around the time I went back to teaching. She said she was frustrated with me, with our life, with feeling like she was carrying everything financially while I played at being a teacher. She said when she talked to him about it, he listened without judgment, made her feel heard. "He gets my ambition," she said. "He understands what it's like to want more from life." I asked if they'd been physical. She said no, not really, just once, last weekend when I wasn't there. "Just kissing," she said, like that somehow made it better. I asked about his wife, her sister. How could she do this to someone she claimed to love so much? That's when something shifted in her face. The guilt was replaced by something harder, more defensive. "You don't understand," she said. "She's been struggling since the baby. She's not the same person. He's been lonely too. We've both been lonely." The way she said it, like she was justifying it, like her sister's postpartum struggles were somehow permission to betray her. That's when I knew this wasn't just about us anymore. This was about who she'd become. I told her I'd found an apartment, that I'd be moving out this week. She didn't try to stop me. If anything, she looked relieved. "Maybe that's for the best," she said. "Maybe we both need to figure out what we really want. The thing is, I already know what I want. I want the woman I married 23 years ago, the one who used to laugh at my terrible jokes and didn't care that I'd rather read a book than climb the corporate ladder. But that woman is gone, has been gone for a while now, and I've been too scared to admit it. Yesterday, I packed my clothes, my books, and my cat. She wasn't home when I left, probably at her sister's, though God knows what story they're all telling themselves about this now. I'm writing this from my new apartment. It's quiet here, no family drama, no walking on eggshells, no feeling like I'm constantly falling short of some impossible standard. My cat seems to like it too. He's been more relaxed than I've seen him in months. I know there's still a conversation to be had about our son, about how we handle this separation, about whether we try counseling or just move straight toward divorce. But for the first time in years, I'm not anxious about those conversations. I'm sad, sure. But I'm not scared anymore. The irony isn't lost on me that in trying to save my marriage, I ended up discovering it was already over. Maybe it's been over for longer than either of us wanted to admit. Maybe some things can't be fixed, no matter how much you love someone or how hard you try. I start therapy next week. I have a lot to work through, not just about this marriage, but about myself, about the patterns that got me here. For now, though, I'm just focusing on getting through each day, on being present for my students, on building something that feels like home in this small apartment. It's strange how quiet feels different from lonely. I thought I'd hate being alone, but there's something peaceful about it. Something honest. For the first time in months, I can breathe.